Hey everyone, welcome to day 9 of our 21 days to a wealthier, healthier, more beautiful you. And I'm Natalie Pace. Again, you can watch this back at our playlist at youtube.com/Natalie Pace. Today's mantra is vision. Now, today is going to be a little bit longer because we're going to introduce you. Some of you may already know these tools, but we're going to actually use some tools to get there. But let me tell you how important vision can be. It includes a lot of the things that we've already talked about, like wisdom, breathing, forgiveness, gratitude. The more that we can clear our own drama away, the greater vision we can have. It's really hard to see beyond things if we're stuck looking at all the problems. Again, let the problems help us create the solutions. And of course, vision is going to help us to create those solutions. Part of that too is avoiding the problems. That's part of what vision can help us to do. Due diligence can help us to do this. So this is an important part of us taking ownership of our lives and us being the boss of our money. If we just go into everything, assuming the other person's the expert, we need to be led, especially since so much of what happens to us in life is sold to us by a commissioned-based salesperson who may actually have an incentive to sell us something that's actually not good for us, right? So, when we think about a fine dining restaurant, they're always going to try to sell us more liquor to drink, dessert, even if maybe that's not healthy for us, right? And that's part of course, you could make the case that that's part of this fine dining experience, and that's part of going out and celebrating or whatever it is that you're doing. But the other side of it is that it's more money, which means more tip, right? And again, they may even be incentivized to sell more alcohol or more dessert. The same thing happens when you go to buy a car. The same thing happens when you go to buy a house. And it certainly can happen if you go to buy financial products like, whether it's, a managed plan at a brokerage, or if they're trying to sell you an annuity, or the insurance salesman who wants to sell you insurance. All of these things, they can be making a lot of money off of you. Like an annuity might pay them 6, 7, 8% commission. So having vision and having a vision for our life and for how we're going to make money while we sleep, for the kind of home that we can afford and where we would like to live. A lot of what I tell people in our real estate master classes is to think 10 years at least beyond. How old will you be in 10 years? What is going to be appropriate for you in 10 years? Should you start planning for that? Right? And we have lots of different examples of what that might be, right? I have a woman who is in retirement age who's still working, and she gave the big house in a great neighborhood to her kids because they are raising kids and they need the school. She doesn't need that anymore. In fact, she's starting to downsize so that she can preserve her money to will it to the next generation. Whether you have kids or not, better for you to have control of your money and direct it to something that will leave your legacy than just have blind faith that somebody else is going to do something great with it. So that's how vision plays into this. All of these other things, again, this is the week where we're going to start thinking of ourselves as a creator. We got rid of the drama last week and we placed it with tools that help us to create our life. And creating the dream come true life requires vision. Okay, so we're going to play the financial freedom game. I'm going to pull it up for you so that you can see how this game looks, and then we're going to go ahead and play it. So here's the template, and you can always email info@nataliepace.com if you'd like us to send you this. You can play it with your friends. You can watch this part back with them. So the financial freedom game is intended to ask and answer, how would you live if you had all the money in the world? Of course, this is a visioning exercise. It's pushing you up against your money walls, hopefully to help break free of any money walls that you might have that are often going to be based on fear, uncertainty, doubt, past experience, maybe even past errors, past mistakes. The good thing about mistakes is we should learn from them to have better vision going forward, right? Okay, so back to the game. Another thing is that it helps us to understand the Thrive budget. The Thrive budget is simple. It's 50% to survive, 50% to thrive. Now, if you're going to live a rich life, then you want to be paying yourself first, but not in jars. Rich people don't put money in jars. They put them in tax-free retirement accounts, or they do investments in businesses, that sort of thing, right? So really good idea. We'll pay less in taxes if we put our money in tax-free retirement accounts, and then it earns a good 10% income, right? Tax-free. That's what's really good about understanding the laws of the wealthy and having that vision to start incorporating them no matter where we are on our path. So putting that money in there, 10% goes to charity. Charity is the best networking. We'll talk about that as we play this game. 10% to education. Education is the highest correlating factor with income. So it obviously, if we're a surgeon, we're going to earn a lot more than if we're a gardener. That may not be your trajectory. You may not be an academic. There are other jobs out there. Plumbers make a decent living, solar panel installers. There's lots of, especially clean energy jobs that don't require a degree. 10% should be going for fun we're going to have right now. And for some people, that's actually going to be a curtailment, right? If you're not thinking about it and you're a shopaholic, then knowing that you only have 10% of your income this month to spend on fun things, whether it's shopaholic, avocado toast, cafe lattes, is going to help you rein it in. And then we're going to save up an extra 10% all year long in order to do something big fun, like maybe it might be a vacation. Okay, so let's get started. And one tip, as we play this game, we are going to talk about your basic needs very briefly. We're going to give you the budget for as a millionaire, a multimillionaire, then a billionaire. But I don't want you to spend your time paying bills. We all are very good at that by this age if we're an adult. What we really need to get better at is visioning, right? So I want you to spend your time on the Thrive budget, not the survive part. Now, getting the survival so that you have more to thrive, getting that fixed is an important part, but it's not an important part of this game. It's an important part of life. There's an entire section on reducing debt and the Thrive budget in the ABCs of money. When we play this game, when we do this series, I often encourage you to make sure that you're using the ABCs of money as your handbook. Okay, so we can go back to that. We can fix that. You're going to have to make brave choices to fix that in today's world where life doesn't add up. But for today, let's do a visioning game. It's a game, right? So let's have fun with it. Let's think outside the box. Let's have whimsy. Let's let wild ideas come crashing into our rigid self and let us dream a little bit. All right, back to the game. So I'm going to start you off in the second column as a millionaire. If you're making $100,000 a month, you have 1.2 million annually. 10% pay yourself first. I call it buy my own island investing portfolio. Why is that? It's a sample. If you have a goal, if you have vision for your retirement account, for your college fund, then you're more likely to try to get there. If you just say that's my retirement account, a lot of people don't even look at those statements, right? But if it's your buy my own island account or it's send my kid to college fund, then you are going to want to see if you're getting closer to your goals. So do put a goal with each one of these accounts that you have. All right. So 10% of 100,000 is 10,000 this month. So go ahead and write that small in that second column, the first row. 10% for charity, second column, second row. 10% for education, that's another 10,000. 10% for short-term fund, that's 10,000. 10% for long-term fund times 12 is 120,000. Now, if you're making 100,000 a month, you have $50,000 for basic needs, and that's everything, right? Debt, house, housing, car, transportation, food, clothes, taxes, etc. Again, put 50,000 in the box, but let's not spend time there because we're going to thrive and vision during this game. So what I'm going to do is ask you to spend, and remember that the universe loves details. So don't just say, I'm going to spend $10,000 and put it in my retirement account. Or don't even just say, I'm going to use the pie chart if you are aware of our pie chart system. Go ahead and say, this month, I think that clean energy is on sale. I've always wanted to own a clean energy fund. I'm going to put $10,000 in that clean energy fund. Or I missed the whole artificial intelligence thing, but it's at trading at an all-time high. So I'm going to start dollar cost averaging into it. My entire slice should be 20,000. So maybe I'll do 10,000 this month and 10,000 in 6 months. So whatever it is, have a plan and be very detailed. Also, for your charity, don't just donate to your church or to an entity that's then going to invest for you. Why do I mean that? Maybe you really love your church. I want to get to the visioning aspect. What is it that you really feel needs to be fixed in the world? And what's the best charity to fix that? Okay, now there is an element of whimsy to this game, so we're only going to give you 5 minutes to do this. Okay, so again, back to your chart, you have these columns, and I want you to fill them in with details. Where are you going to invest $10,000? And maybe even think about what you're going to call that investment portfolio. Who is going to get your $10,000 charitable donation? Education. How is it that you are going to educate yourself so that you can improve your income? Now, again, we talked about how education is the highest correlating factor with income, but educating yourself about financial matters is also going to improve the performance of whether you own a home and your home equity, and or your money while you sleep in your retirement accounts. Of course, most of us won't have any trouble at all investing $10,000 in short-term fund, and you may not even have trouble figuring out where you'll put $120,000. All right, so go ahead and pause this video now and give yourself 5 minutes to do this, and then we'll come back and I'll give you a few more pointers. Okay, one of the pointers that I wanted to give you, I did give you already some pointers about Buy My Own Island Fund, but on the charity one, a lot of times people will have a lot of things that they want to fix in the world. And so they'll say, I have $10,000. I will give 10 different charities $1,000 each. And what I want to tell you is that when you focus and you also include time and talent, then it can really create some magic, not just for you, not just for the charitable organization, but even for your life. All of my best next acts came out of charitable contribution. It wasn't that they were exactly that. It was more that when you are doing something that you feel very passionate about and other people are as well, those are your people. And while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing for good, expecting nothing in return, and them as well, you start talking about your life and their life on a deeper level. You're more connected to them. So the women that I started, raising funds for my son's public school when he was in elementary school, they ended up becoming the women who encouraged me to start the Women's Investment Network. That led to this whole financial freedom thing. Now, later on, I started the Earth Gratitude Project with two other co-founders, actually three. And, over the course of that, I went on to having contributions from Deepak Chopra, the King of England, also very important projects that are not, they're very important people, but they certainly aren't billionaires like Jane Goodall, like Queen Diambi, like Wildlife Direct in Africa. So we have excellent Kathleen Rogers at the Earth Day Network, the largest environmental organization. So again, when your heart's in the right place and you do donate your time and your talent, that sometimes is even more valuable than your money. You're going to be in the decision making and you're going to be with your people, and all kinds of really cool stuff can happen as a result of that. All right. So hopefully you didn't have trouble spending on things that you love. And we'll talk more about education and investing. But before we do, I'm going to go ahead and give you a raise and make you a multi-millionaire. So let's take a look at our worksheet. So you're going over to that third column. You make $1 million a month, and that means 12 million a year. So 10% of $1 million is 100,000 for your investing this month, 100,000 for your charity, 100,000 for education, 100,000 for short-term fund, and 1.2 million long-term fund. Now, if you're making $1 million a month, you have 500,000 for your basic needs. Now, remember, most multimillionaires and certainly most billionaires, they pay lower taxes than their assistants do. And this has a lot to do with tax protections, right? So they're going to put their investments into as many tax protected vehicles as they can. The billionaire Peter Thiel has reportedly about $5 billion in his Roth IRA. All right. And that's just the power of compounding and also over time and regular contributions. So don't underestimate those things. Also, they're going to want to get a lot of their money in tax protected, especially charitable contributions. So the Getty Center is as a result initially of J. Paul Getty wanting to reduce his taxes. Many foundations, most billionaires have foundations, and almost every one of their kids has their own foundation as well. So again, learning how to pay less in taxes is part of the game of the wealthy, part of the financial freedom plan. So we still want to have collective roads built and garbage taken out and all the things that our tax dollars paid for. But at the same time, we also probably want to have greater control over the good that we want our money to do in the world. And that's what foundations are all about. So one other thing before I ask you to start spending like a multimillionaire, I'd like to give you an example of one. So, we could think about someone like Jennifer Hudson. And when she started out, she was probably at the lowest income bracket. And then she didn't even win American Idol. And she went on and she kept at it and she improved her craft and she went on to win an Oscar, right? So this is she may be an EGOT winner by now. She has a lot of commercials that she does. She certainly has contracts to appear on television. She's done The Voice. She's been a coach. So, she's someone who now probably makes about 12 million or more every year. But we want to think about this, right? We can't do it for ourselves, make that kind of money. There are lots of people that are helping us. So if she's doing a commercial, there's, an entire team that's helping her to look great for her commercial. If she's making a film, that can have hundreds of people that are doing it. Now, she's obviously not paying for hundreds of people, but I just want you to be aware of the fact that nobody can make an Oscar-winning film or receive an Academy Award without other people doing great things to make them look great. Maybe an acting coach. That may also be that they have, if they have kids, that they have a nanny for the kids. Some of this is going to be covered by their personal business. Some of it's their personal personal checking account. So, just want you to think of these things. Now, obviously, your business expenses are not included on this visioning game, but I do want you to think more broadly and to be cognizant of the fact that you are going to have to get along with others. You are going to have, if you are thinking bigger, if you are going to have vision, partners are going to be a big piece of that. Okay, so go ahead and spend like a multi-millionaire. Again, you have this month 100,000 to invest. How exactly are you going to invest that? 100,000 for charity, 100,000 for education, 100,000 for short-term fund, 1.2 million for long-term fund, and 500,000 for basic needs. Write it in there, but you're not going to spend anything there. Okay, now go ahead and pause this and come back in 5 minutes. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these categories again. If we're thinking about $100,000 this month on our Buy My Own Island, our investing strategy, I want to remind you that you have various assets, right? Like you might have money in a checking account, you might have money in a savings account. Again, I would encourage you to put most of your money as much as possible, max out your IRAs, your 401k, and oftentimes our nest egg pie chart is a number of different accounts, our checking account, our savings account, our 401k, our IRAs, even our health savings account if you're an American. You might have an annuity or life insurance that's vested. We'll talk more about that in to come. And I certainly do a lot of blogs on what's safe and how to get safe and why so many safe investments, including annuities, actually do lose money. So you do want to learn about that. But that's what I want you to do is to remember that there are various things that go in your nest egg. And then you might also have your own house that you're thinking of buying. Of course, there are many aspects to that. Read the real estate section of the ABCs of Money, because with real estate prices at an all-time high, it's harder to build equity, right? It's easy to build equity when prices are going up. However, if housing prices go way down, then of course you're not building equity. And in fact, if the value of your home falls below your mortgage, that can be a real financial hardship. That can be a problem for a long time to come. So we want to have vision for all of our investments, right? Buying stocks at an all-time high, not a great idea. Buying and more than we should, right? Want to know what an age-appropriate and diversified plan looks like. So all of that is covered in the stocks section. And the what's safe section of the ABCs of Money. Of course, we spend 3 days covering that at our retreats. All right, so go ahead and think about that, right? You don't have to just put money and invest it in clean energy or small, medium, large value and growth or your four hots. You could also think, okay, now maybe you own your own home. Are you ready to buy an apartment building? Right? So again, you can have, that's not going to go in your pie chart because the pie chart is all liquid assets. But if you own an apartment building and it's paying you income and you buy it for a good price, so it actually might increase in value, then, you have multiple streams of income. You've increased your net worth. In fact, that's why people like investing in real estate is a lot of times you can use leverage, and having the appropriate amount of assets in your wealth versus the debt that you take on to maybe finance that can still boost you real quickly up up that path to wealth. So investing is something you want to think about in a broad way. Again, if you can stop making everybody else rich and keep the money in the family, that's something else we want to do. We will have that vision. By the way, that's what we do at our Restore Mo Royal Manor House retreat. We play this game there. But part of the reason why I take people there is so that you can expand your vision. And I want to show you something here. Let's go back to the screen share. So this is our Restore Mo Royal Manor House that we visit. This is the castle that's right on the back of the hill that you can walk up to. Um, and you know, it's just a private estate, 5 star. But when you're living there for a week, it's owned by the royal family. You can't help but think differently. First of all, you've taken like a time off of your regular life. Secondly, look at how big and spacious that is, that private estate. So this is just an experience. Now, you don't need to go there to have vision, but that's part of the reason that we do go there. That's part of the reason why I take people there. We talk about sustainability. We talk about how you can stop making the gas station, the utility company, and all these other billionaires, basically rich at our own expense, and start building wealth. We talk about how families keep the money in the family for centuries. We talk about how billionaires, especially old money in Europe and in back east as well, that they're thinking of 3 generations. They're including everything in their parents, aging parents, their kids, their grandkids. They're preparing for all of this. And we can do that too. It doesn't matter. We don't have to be a multimillionaire or a billionaire. Okay. So that's something to think about with regard to investing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take you and bump you up a level and make you a billionaire. So here's what that looks like. All right. So we're now in this final column. We're making 100 million a month. That times 12 is 1.2 billion. Before we even start anything, let's think about that for a minute. Because if you make $1.2 billion every year, you are very likely one of the top employers in your region. So we have to think about all of these categories again, right? Like, let's say that you're Microsoft and you are going to need, in fact, sadly, one of the biggest reasons that we bring other people in from other countries is because we don't have enough computer scientists in this country. So that's always in high demand. If you are an American and you have a computer science degree, you're going to get a job real fast because we have to bring people in from other countries with the demand on that. All right. So I want you to think about that, is that there's no mystery why Silicon Valley is near Stanford and Berkeley. There's no mystery why, the top film schools are in Los Angeles and New York City, because the industries there need people to operate cameras, not just, producers and directors and actors. They also need the hands-on learning, the technicians. So the industry helps to educate people in that regard as well. So if, again, you personally are not going to be paying for this out of your personal budget, but if you, the billionaire business owner, doesn't have a focus on education for the community, then you're not going to continue to lead in your business. So it becomes this responsibility, right? Think of yourself as the son of the village, and if you don't wake up and shine, then that's going to be a problem. Also, you can't really drive your Hummer to your compound through a wasteland of devastation. It doesn't work out. We see that over and over again, how dictators are toppled, right? So it is going to be important for people to have quality of life, for people to have basic needs covered. Unaffordable housing is a big problem, and we've got to solve that, right? That's part of, sometimes when we have a labor shortage, is that maybe the area is too expensive for people to come in and earn minimum wage. We've seen that across the United States. Probably in Canada, most of the developed world has had that problem as well. So when we consider, all of these different categories that we're going to be investing in as a billionaire, we want to be thinking about those kinds of things because they actually make us a billionaire. We cannot be a billionaire without the partnership of our employees, our managers, the education levels that are necessary for us to compete and stay first mover advantage in our business. So 100 million a month means you have 10 million to invest this month. You have 10 million for charity. Again, you're going to have your own foundation at this level. You have 10 million for education. You have 10 million for short-term fund. You have 120 million for long-term fund. And again, if you're making 100 million a month, your basic needs are 50 million or less. Now, again, because billionaires pay so much less in taxes, this isn't hard for them to do, right? That's not even given if they have to have security for wherever they live. So again, go ahead and pause this video for 5 minutes and remember to be detailed. Now, you might say, I can't think of how to spend 120 million on long-term fund or even 10 million on how to invest, or what would I what could I possibly do to educate myself with $10 million, right? So think about this. And if you have trouble, it's a game. It's not a blueprint yet, right? I mean, you may think, oh, I really do want to be a billionaire. I want a blueprint. But a lot of people, it's a game. And it's intended to just get you to think bigger and to have greater vision. So play the game. And if you have trouble with it, give the crayon to the 5-year-old and let that child color outside the lines a little bit. If a thought comes winging in from outer space, go ahead and use it. There's no wrong answers. It leads you to greater vision. Okay, pause the video, come back in 5 minutes. Okay, thanks. Welcome back. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about education, right? So we did talk about how education is the highest correlating factor with income. We also talked about if you educate yourself about investing, you're going to do better than if you just have blind faith that somebody else is protecting your future for you. Another thing to think about, which we mentioned, was, maybe education and charity now start getting gray area. Like maybe your charity is donating, when we've seen this where I believe that there is a school, a film school at USC that was donated by Spielberg and Lucas. So maybe that's what you're going to do. You're going to help to donate and educate people. And it becomes part of education and part of charity. Of course, if you have student loan debt, then that's where you're paying off your student loan debt to try to get it to 10% or less of your budget. If you are, maybe helping one of your kids or contributing to a college fund, maybe that's part of this as well. So obviously on the billionaire level, you have a lot of excess to think about. And that's where helping society can help your business, which actually helps you. All right, let's think about some of these other things, because some people are going to say, wow, I could never think of 120 million on long-term fund. And yet others, this isn't a problem at all, right? They might say, I want to create a multi-generational community. And of course, I'm going to put my family there, but also, whatever passion that they have. Maybe it's, I'm going to buy a farm and make it regenerative, right? So again, think outside the box and have some vision and start getting there. Now, one last thing I want to say is that some people, as an example, on the education side, one of the people that had played this game with me, her name was Melanie. She wanted to buy lunch with Warren Buffett. And of course, you could donate $1 million to a charity. And I think you would get, he was doing this, he may not now, he's getting up there. But he would give lunch with somebody. And even though she couldn't afford that, we said, well, hey, why don't you buy Berkshire Hathaway stock and then go to the meetings every year? Because there you're going to be hearing him, right? So it's a difference between all or nothing. Within 2 years, she sent me back photos of her with Bill Gates playing bridge. If you would like those photos, email us and we're happy to send it to you with her permission, of course. But that's how I want you to think. And that's where we're going to take it next, is we're going to take it to commitments. So every one of these categories where you've dreamed bigger, where you've had bigger vision, you could also do what Melanie did with her education, and you can think outside the box, right? So if you think, oh, I would really like to join the Peace Corps and I would like to help in this way. Well, is there a charity near you that has the same sort of challenges as whatever it was that you wanted to help? And can you go and don't, if you can't write that check right now, can you go donate your time? So that's what I want you to do is I want you now to look at each one of these categories and say, okay, what is my commitment to investing better? Am I going to look into a health savings account so I can save, tens of thousands annually and stop making the health insurance company rich? Do I need to open up my own Roth IRA so I can start investing in hot industries that aren't available in my 401k? With charitable giving, should I start donating an hour a week or 4 hours a month? With education, should I take a meaningful look? Should I be paying down my student loan debt faster because I can afford 10%, right? For fun, again, this might be, and fun isn't really tax deductible. So I actually take out my fun in cash, and when I spend it, it's done, right? That makes it easy. So however it is that you want to keep track of it. And then the long-term fun, again, that's something that you want to save up for, right? So what is your commitment for long-term fun? Are you going to take a bucket list vacation? Are you going to start on a payment plan to join us? We actually have one seat left. So if you want to join us in March 7th through 14th, 2025 at Restormal, better email info@nataliepace.com right away. But we're also going to do it again in 2027 around the same time, around the spring equinox. So maybe you go on a payment plan so that you can join us there. Of course, whatever your long-term fun is it going to be that regenerative farm? Is the next step that you take towards that long-term goal going to be to take a week and offer to volunteer on an existing regenerative farm and help them with their harvesting? So as part of your own education. So that's what I want you to do is I want you to get creative. For most of these, I want you to think about something you can do this week to activate that commitment. And obviously for long-term fun, maybe that is something that you're going to be saving up for to achieve. But write down your commitments. Now, one last tip I'm going to give you here about the billionaire game is that when you share your commitments, you're more likely to do it. So I do encourage you, like we play the billionaire game at all of our financial freedom retreats, and people share in the chat what their commitments are. Nobody's going to come back and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, did you do all those commitments? But it's like everything. When we say our commitments out loud in front of people, we are more committed to it. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining me for this visioning exercise. You are absolutely free to share this with your friends or even to host your own financial freedom game. I'll see you tomorrow.